All right. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Strong Black Woman Support Group podcast. I am your host, Regina Renee, and I am also the founder of the Strong Black Woman Support Group and the founder of Mindful and Melanated. And of course, I am joined by my two beautiful, beautiful Black women friends. We have Erica V and our doctor in residence, Dr. Akua. So, before we get started into the topic, this is a really good topic. So before we get into the topic, for those of us who are new to the podcast, if we can just please give a brief introduction of ourselves. I'll have Erica go first and then popcorn it over to Dr. Akua.
All right, my name is Erica V, as Regina mentioned. I am one of Regina's longtime friends. I'm in the nonprofit space, so I experience a lot of madness that Black women go through on a day to day basis. And I'm just here and happy to be here as always. So, Dr. Akua, on to you.
I am making sure I'm not on mute, and I'm not. I'm Dr. Akua. I am the Black Woman's Wellbeing Coach, and my goal, my mission, my purpose, my aim is to heal the Black women.
I know that's right. Power to the peoples. Power to us.
You gotta be
So, like I
bold.
said, I am the founder of Mindful and Melanated, as well as the Strong Black Women Support Group. And part of what I do is I have an annual conference, and I have my sixth annual conference coming up this October. It happens to be on Black Girl Day Off. I'm not telling you to call out, but I'm just letting you know that October 11th is Black Girl Day Off. Anyway, so the theme, the theme for this year's conference is less hustle and more flow. And so the other day, Dr. Akua and I, we were talking, about the conference and this concept. And she was like, well, wait a minute. Well, before we tell people to stop hustling and start flowing, we need to define what it means and what it looks like and how it shows up in our lives as Black women. And so that's why we're having this conversation today. What is hustling? What is flowing? And how does it show up in our lives, whether our professional lives, our personal lives, our intimate lives, whatever. And so that's what we're talking about today. And I know y'all, well, I don't know. I assume everyone who is listening, watching is familiar with the film Hustle and Flow with my girl Taraji P. Henson, yes, and Terrence Howard, right? And so the premise of the movie is like you got to get on your grind, you got to hustle, you got to work hard to get what you want. And I don't know about y'all, but me, as a little Black girl growing up, I heard that day in and day out, that we as Black people have to be, 10 times better in order to be considered, halfway equal to our white counterparts, our white classmates. And so that's a lot of pressure, right? To have as a young person. And I'm not gonna lie, I've carried that, into my adulthood. And so I would always, do the most but get the least, right? So what does that mean? Being a pick me at work, volunteering for projects that are way outside of the scope of my title and pay grade, thinking I'm going to get a little head pat and a check, right? I got the head pat, but I never got the check, right? um or or helping friends out, right, when they need it, which is perfectly fine, but it's to your detriment, like me not doing something that I want to do in order to help out a friend, right, and that not being reciprocated. So that's just kind of like, for me, just a little tidbit of how it has shown up for me. But I would love to hear our Dr. Akua, your perspective on, like, what exactly, like, how would you define hustle versus flow?
I'll start with hustle first because that's where the problem is, huh? We want to get to the flow, but identifying what the problem is, or what which we're trying to like get away from. That's why I'll start there. And hustle has several connotations, right? Some people can look at hustle as a good thing. You got to handle your business, you got to stay on your grind, you got to get that money, you got to work really hard to accomplish some goal that you preset previously. if we take away the AAVE, which I never do, huh? So it's a lot of what you said, though. The way that it shows up in the negative connotation is when we never stop. Like, I think if we were to ask many Black women, none of them would say, "Oh my gosh, I love the life of being overwhelmed, and I love the life of like having all of these different responsibilities, and oh my gosh, how much do I love being two times better and receiving 50% less." I love that so much. I highly doubt that anybody would say that, but because we've been socialized in that environment, then we go along to get along. We've been conditioned to hustle, to be working a full time job, full time student, full time parent, full time in your church, full time in whatever family obligations you have. And in each of those settings, you're doing 70 million things. So you're working on several projects, high profile projects at work. You are, chairing some big committee at church and making sure that you're handling all the pieces and the parts, and you go, 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 go. And none of that even yet speaks to how you're there and available for people who need you for support, advice, et cetera, et cetera. So I would say hustling is overextending ourselves in order to keep up with whatever standards or, socialized identity we're expected to have. Um, and to the point that you made, is to our detriment.
Yeah. So I think I would want to add that hustle also includes, um, at least for me, doing things that weren't necessarily like aligned with what Regina wanted to do. Right. So, like, I think I've told this story before on the podcast where for a long time, I thought I wanted to be a corporate attorney, or I thought I wanted to be a doctor because I wanted to do like autopsies or whatever. But that's a whole nother topic. That's a whole other podcast. We can process that on another podcast. But and like you said, to your point, Dr. Akua, like I was socialized, right, to believe that's what I want, and I really thought, look, 10 toes, 11 toes down, I wanted to be a lawyer, right?
You
Because
borrowing toes.
right, I'm adding toes. Um, because what's the first thing? What are the two professions that people say they want their kids to be? A doctor or a lawyer, right? And so, because that's success, that's Black excellence, right? Oh, Regina Renee Esquire, But at the end of the day, I just wanted to write. I just wanted to be a writer. I just wanted to be a personality. You know what I mean? Or like a talk show host. And so I think part of the hustle is, doing things that are very that rely on external validation. At least for me. That's how I've, you know what I mean? Like I want to be successful, but is being a lawyer or a doctor the only way to be successful?
I think that brings up something important because yes, as the person facilitating the conference, there is some definition provided so folks know what it is that you're helping us navigate against, and also taking a moment to define it for ourselves. What does that look like and feel like and mean to you,
Hmm.
especially in the context of I want less of this thing as opposed to more of the other things. So I love how you're naming that. And I think that's important for people watching to define what is hustle for you, understanding that it is in the negative context. It's not in the part where it's like, oh, you set a goal and you accomplish it. What is that negative? How does that show up for you? I think that could be, you know what I'm saying? Something for folks to ponder over as they wait for, the days leading up to the conference.
Right.
I can speak to that in the sense of kind of shifting, not shifting the gear, but in thinking that you're doing what you want to do, or knowing that you're doing what you want to do, but also overdoing it, because you can want to be passionate about something, but then you're going 10 times harder that you then you should, instead of just taking it slow and pacing yourself and the things that you want to do. You're giving 130% that you don't even have because you're doing your full-time job. Like you mentioned, you're a student, you're a mother, you're a wife, you're this, that, and the third, and then you're doing all these other extracurricular activities. But you're going so hard for the things that you do like that you don't know when to slow down to kind of balance it out in the things that of your life overall to make it more sustainable for you. So you get burnt down in that way as well. I can speak to that. I always say before COVID, I was always on the go, on the go, on the go, and I was doing what made me happy. But in the end, it was to my own detriment where I was tired, burnt out. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. I didn't want to do things that made me happy anymore because I was so burnt out. So I think in trying to understand and realize where you can not limit your time, not limit yourself, but kind of balance the things out. Like, okay, I have to work. If you gotta work, I have to work. I want to be involved in X, Y, and Z, but kind of try to figure out what way makes sense for you, so you're not being burnt out, or it's not a detriment to you, and you're not trying to run around like a chicken with your head cut off, trying to figure out what makes sense to you. So I think in realizing that, and when the hustle becomes too much, and taking a step back and being like, you know what, I need a break.
Yeah, I actually can relate to that too, because there was a point in my life where I was doing a lot as well, where things that actually were joyful became a chore, right? So I can give you an example like yoga, for example. Yoga and journaling were two things that at one point brought me joy, but then it was like, oh my gosh, I don't feel like writing in my journal today, but I know I have to because this is part of my healing journey and I need to process my thoughts and I need to go to yoga because I need to be able to be flexible and stretch and get all this trauma out of my body through movement. And it was just like, it was, it's like, oh, I have to get up. I have to put on a bra. I got to drive. I got to find parking to go to this yoga studio. I'm the only damn chocolate chip in this whole damn place. So it was just like, it was so aggravating because, like Erica was saying, I was doing so much other stuff that I was exhausted by the time it was time to do what I actually wanted to do. I didn't want to do it. And because it was how I perceived at the time, I perceived it as just a want, like an ancillary thing that easily fell by the wayside.
I think
But I
that,
stayed at work till 10 o'clock at night, right?
yeah,
Make that make sense.
it rarely does. I think that lends to like when you get to the part about more flow, you trying to transition from the hustle to the flow. Where's the gap? Identifying that gap, right? Because I can think about, gosh, several times in my life, I was working as a project manager and I was project managing for a total of 9 sourcing teams, plus they had like the combined sourcing team. So each team had anywhere from 12 to 30 people on the team. These were like surgeons. Um, and I was project managing for all of them separately, and then they all came together. And this job, there was no such thing as 8-hour work days. There was no such thing as 40-hour work weeks. I was getting emails at 2 in the morning. I was getting emails from someone at 2 in the morning, and we had a 7 o'clock meeting. And I'm thinking, we just got off a meeting at 5 o'clock. You sent me an email at 2 o'clock, and now you on this call, this first morning meeting with me at the crack of dawn. When did you sleep? Where did the sleep happen? And I literally went to my supervisor. I was like, is this something that y'all are expecting from people? And of course, legally, she had to tell me no.
Oh,
But if you don't keep up that type of rigor, then you're not going to do well in that job. Not only was I doing that job, at the time I was in school, at the time I was very active in church. And when I say active, I'm talking about singing. I don't remember if I was on the praise team at that time, but definitely singing, either in the choir or the praise team, definitely teaching, definitely some sort of leadership position. And I was a single mom. And so that comes with a whole world of itself. And there were 3 separate occasions in my life in that span of time, like maybe within I'm gonna say 3 to 4 period, where my body just shut down because I was doing all the things. And when I say shut down, I literally mean shut down. I was very mentally alert, but nothing would move. Nothing would move. And so coming from that place, because it was a hustle to the point y'all are making, I wanted to be in school, loved my kids, literally wanted my children, prayed for the children that I got. And I loved singing, loved doing all of the serving that I was doing, but it became very laborious. It became very much a chore. And it wasn't something I look, it was just like you said, Regina, I felt that. Oh, okay, I got it, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I got it. Blah. It wasn't no more, oh, okay, today is, rehearsal, or, oh, I get to da 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 da. No, I got to. So, what is that gap? Like, right? Being able to move from that hustle to that flow, what's the gap? What is your own marker of understanding? Like, this is too much. How did you get to? I'm literally talking to y'all. How did you transition from that space of being overwhelmed, being in the hustle, to getting into the flow, even if it's still a process? What was that aha moment for you?
I think
I,
for me, oh, sorry, go ahead, Erica.
you go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, for me, I think that aha moment was realizing that this hustle mentality, this hustle culture is not our culture. It
Mm,
is purely rooted in white supremacy, racism, and patriarchy and capitalism. And once I realized that, I was like, well, I'm a black woman, so I'm really not benefiting from this white supremacy, racism, patriarchy, capitalism. So maybe that's why I'm stressed out. Because this system was not built for me. So I need a system that works
Right.
for me.
Period. Not
So
wasn't
once I
built for me
realized,
and it wasn't built by me. Huh?
hello.
right, right.
So that was the aha moment. I was like, hold up, sis. You doing something that is clearly built and upheld and maintained to oppress you. Why are you feeding into this, girl? Stop. That was my aha moment.
For me, I had no choice. It was COVID. It was COVID. It was like shut it down. So while everybody was,
Mm.
they were feeling like, oh, I want to go back outside. I want to do something. I was like, oh, this is lovely. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to like just be of service and do all these things. And it was COVID. It made me just stop. But I think the part that is kind of messed up about that is that I got so comfortable in stopping that I didn't want to start back. And I realized that's my body telling me you were doing too much because you're comfortable and not doing any of that now. And now I have it in my mind like, I want to do it. So serving on boards, being a part of all different types of organizations that I love to do, I was just doing too much of it. Having to get off of work at 5 o'clock, way down in Coral Gables at the time, to drive all the way up to Broward County on the I-95 from US 1 to I-95, being in car accidents. My last car accident, I don't even want to talk about it. But things like that, and wondering why is all this happening to me? Like, you are doing too much. Having to be to a meeting at 6 o'clock and you left work at 5 o'clock. The traffic in South Florida, you are not going to get where you need to be in time. So I would have to get on the what is it called, the express lanes, and pay like $10, $20 to get where I need to be because time is of the essence. I don't want to do that. I want to be able to just drive home in a peaceful environment. So for me, it was COVID. It's like, okay, well, you can't slow down. So this pandemic is going to slow you down. And again, after the pandemic basically was is over, it's just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm comfortable with sitting back and saying, you know what? I don't want to. And it's not that I don't want to be of service, it's that I don't want to feel like I'm obligated to do these things. And although I enjoy some of these things, if the things that I enjoy become an obligation and it's like you have to do it, you don't enjoy it. So that's why I think the aha moment was for me. And now that again, COVID's done and over, I'm just like, I don't want to. I don't want to because I just don't want to. I'm comfortable where I am right now. So
It's so interesting because, like, there are women, Black women, that I've coached, and I would love to hear y'all's response to this. They will say to me, no, but I want to. No, but I'm okay. I love it. Meanwhile, they're getting all these reports from their doctor. Meanwhile, they're overwhelmed. They're frustrated. They're wearing their tension in their shoulders. Like, I could be talking to them for 10 minutes, And I'll be like, do me a favor, take a deep breath and then lower your shoulders. And they be like, because you don't even realize that you're sitting with all this tension. And as we're talking through trying to help them figure out how to navigate or how to change what is it in their life that could be changed, that could be, revamped, whatever, we start looking at their schedule and they're almost fighting for their life in the comments. No, but I love doing that. This is I'm the mother and I must do that, or I'm the blah blah blah. We've convinced ourselves that we love. I would love to hear your response and reaction to that, because I'm like, do you really love it? Do
A
you
point,
really
a
love it?
quick point to that. I was looking at something online earlier, and in the comments, someone said, "Are you trying to convince us or convince yourself?" So I
Right.
thought about that when you said that. Like,
I'm telling people, listen, because sometimes people get like literally mad, like mad with me, and I'm like, okay, listen, we're not gonna argue. I'm not gonna wrestle with you for your right to protect the thing that you're trying to get rid of. What are you trying to fight for right now? As you fuss at me and argue back to me, what is it that you're fighting for? And that usually like help people be like, oh, maybe let me calm down a little bit, please, because really, this is telling, and all those other physical signs that you talk about are telling, and your exhaustion, it's telling. But yet here you are fighting for it.
Let me speak to the shoulder thing, right? So this is probably a few months ago, was getting a massage, and this was a new massage therapist that I was seeing. She's amazing, by the way. Wings Wellness, if you're local to Boston area, Wings Wellness is amazing. No, I'm not getting paid for this. She's just dope as fuck.
Hey.
Matter of fact, I need to make an appointment. And so she was, to your point with the shoulders, because I held a lot of tension in my shoulders. Anyway, so she was massaging my shoulders, and I started crying, and I didn't know why. Like at that in that moment, I didn't know why, but I just felt I needed to, and I was trying to stop myself from crying because I'm like, I'm getting a massage. Why is you crying? Like, what's wrong with you? And she noticed it, and she said, Go, let it out, keep crying. She was like, I hear you when I see you. She was like, a lot of trauma is held in our shoulders, specifically childhood trauma. She's like, I'm helping you release that trauma. Just cry, just let it out.
That is why I do this work, because we have we have been so focused on survival since we were trafficked to this country.
Right,
Like survival was the name of the game, right? So we didn't have the benefit of learning all of these different tools. We didn't trauma. What? Only now, and by now I mean like, in recent years, are we really becoming more aware of what trauma is and what
mhm,
it does to our body. This is only one way that we see it. Sometimes those diagnoses that we get is because the trauma that's stored in our body's got to have somewhere to go.
right.
And we think it's no big deal, I'll go to bed and I'll be fine. No, friend, it's still there and it's got to go somewhere. And so, it'll find its way in thyroid problems, or in lower back pain, or in what do you call that when you not the head, migraines. Like,
Like, right.
it'll
Mhm.
show up somewhere in our bodies. And even if we're able to, in our through our mouth, be like, oh, I love, showing up and being the support, they literally have people who are like, oh, I have the ministry of helps, and which suggests that your role in ministry is to be a helper to other people. And while that's great, there has to be some limits. There has to be some boundaries, because otherwise you're adding to the stress and the trauma that's in your body, and it's got to find some way to come out. And then be them illnesses that we get just out of nowhere. Even I'm gonna go ahead, Erica. I see you can rest
no,
because
no.
that's my soapbox. That traumatology counselor. That's my soapbox.
I was going to say, Dr. Cole, I don't know if you know, but Regina, remember at the conference, I'm very emotional in general in this season of my life. always like a happy emotion for the most part. Yes. But remember someone gave me a hug and I just started crying. Do you remember
Mhm.
that, Gina? So research shows that we need 8 to 12 hugs a day. Like just as and like for like 20-second hugs. So they're saying that, people who have lack of affection, like physical affection, can lead to loneliness, anxiety, depression. I always knew that like hugs were always important to me, but because I live alone, um, that if you're going without a hug for a period of time, that can be detrimental to you. And I have an aunt growing up, every time she would see you or say hi or say bye, she always gave you these real tight hugs. And I just never understood what it meant. But as I've gotten older now and thinking about hugs, and especially at the conference, when the lady hugs me, it was like an embrace. I broke down crying, like full blown tears, just crying because I'm like, I needed that hug. Or in times that if I don't see my parents, because they're not in the area, if I don't see my parents, I'm like, I need a hug, or just in general, I need a hug. I don't just go around hugging strangers. I'm friendly enough to do so, but I don't do that. If I don't have a hug or a meaningful hug, it can be, weighing on you, but that's another way that trauma sits in your body where you feel like, you're tired, you feel lonely, depressed, anxious. I know I have anxiety. So having a hug or even my weighted blanket, I love a weighted blanket because it makes you feel so comforted, and it feels soothing. Some people are saying, why do you sleep with all these heavy things? I'm like, well, because it feels like it's holding me down where, you have that comfort level. But you need 8 to 12 hugs a day to be okay. So
Wow, I didn't know about that study. That's very interesting. I'm not a hugger, but I do have a weighted heated blanket that I use at night. Yeah.
heated,
Oh, it's
it's
weighted
weighted
heat.
and heated.
When you
Girl,
threw heated in there, you something happened in my shondo.
Listen,
Cause listen, you get listen.
I'll send y'all the Amazon link. It's fire. I love it. It's amazing. But but yeah, what we were talking about? We were talking about the aha moment. We realized this hustle was just not for us. Yeah, yeah. What about you, Akua?
I mean, honestly, after the third time that my body was like, friend, we're not doing it. We're not
Mm,
doing it. I started like, what is going on? And at that time, I don't think I think I was in school, but I don't think I was really learning what I now know about the body and about trauma and things like that. I've just always been a very curious person. Like
mm,
I think I shared with you before, I was always sitting up underneath somebody grown in grown folks' business, um, asking questions or eavesdropping because they thought I wasn't paying attention because I was reading a book, but I was doing both. So so I know all the dirt. I know all the stuff the adults was talking about. So. Mhm. Um, but yeah, after that, I'm like, why is this happening? Because every time after it would happen, I would go to the doctor and they would poke, x-ray, MRI, do the little walk, bend down and touch your toes, reach up and like all of those
wait,
little things. And 100% of the time,
what test is
nothing,
that?
girl,
They
it is
was
like
reaching.
because because
I'm
in
not trying to be
in
funny because you're telling a serious story. I'm legitimately confused. I'm really not trying to be funny.
in each instance, my body broke like shut down in a different way, right? It wasn't
Okay,
always
okay,
the same way.
gotcha.
So each time I would go to the doctor, there was a different thing. But they do want to find out, like you never been to the doctor and they say, okay, walk from here to over there. And then they watch your gait, they watch how your feet land, and I guess to see, I don't really know. I'm not that kind of doctor, right? They watching to see, I guess, what your
your
equilibrium
equilibrium.
or
Yeah.
something. You know what I
Uh,
mean? But all I know is I did it. So if I wasn't supposed to, they got me. Um, but after each appointment, all the reports would come back and be like, nothing, nothing. And one of the doctors, one of the last set of like specialists that I went to, They were like, have you been like experiencing anything particularly stressful? And me tell you what happened. I was like, no. And then you know that scene from I think it's Waiting to Exhale where she was like, oh, I ain't doing nothing. I'm making a little cornbread, collard greens, black eyed peas, right? In that tone of voice, I ran down for that doctor what I was doing. No, no stress. I'm just doing this, doing that, and running down a little bit of that, go down to the church couple, and then I do that, da 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 da. And the doctor was looking at me with this look like, friend, that's stress.
Mm-hmm.
I did not realize that the things that I voluntarily did, because nobody forced me to sign up for school, nobody forced me to be present in my children's lives, nobody forced me to have a full time job, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of these things, it didn't ever dawn on me that, yeah, I want to do these things, but there's also stress related. There's also overwhelm. There's also, um, I just forgot the word that was going to come, but it never occurred to me. And so when we had that conversation, I pushed back a little bit because, again, I didn't know. And then I started paying more attention to my body and I started seeing the warning signs that I hadn't been paying attention to in the three previous times. And that's so my aha moment maybe happened over a span of, let's say, maybe, I don't know, maybe a year and a half of me paying attention, being curious. And then I started saying, okay, so what do I do? And as we know in medical science, nothing was geared toward nor about the Black woman. So a lot of it I had to figure out on my own in by looking at different things that was out there. So yeah, it took me about a year and a half of my that wake up time, not the breakdown, but the wake up moment to be like, okay, something's wrong. And I actually am the best person to address it because it's me.
Yeah, I like how you said that. Like you are the best person to address it, and for me too. Yeah, and I feel like you said a lot of things, right? So first of all, you originally pushed back on your doctor when you listed all your roles and responsibilities. You initially pushed back on your doctor, like how your clients sometimes push back on you right now. And
Sort
so
of.
that
I wasn't
oh
arguing, but yeah, I
oh
definitely was like, no, no, it's that's not stressful. I enjoy it. I love it. I'm here for it.
right.
Yeah.
But I think that speaks to, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to speak for you, but for me, that kind of like speaks to just how Black women show up just in general in the world. Like out, girl, I'm the choir director at my church. I'm chief of staff at my job. I have two nonprofits. I be dog walking for the MSPCA with no problem. We think that's regular, regular, normal ass shit. Just a regular
Period.
damn Wednesday.
Period. No, it's
A
actually
Wednesday reads like a somebody else's resume.
Right.
I would 100% agree with that. I can't tell you how if it wasn't somebody I was coaching, it was just somebody that I care about or somebody that I went to the same church with, went to the same church with, whatever. If that ain't right, it ain't right. Um, but yeah, in those conversations, I would say maybe even shoot 10 times out of 10, that Black woman
Mhm.
is holding on to whatever that is that she's, well, no, that's what I do. Well, no, girl, we got to do it, girl, because if I don't do it, nobody will do it, or it won't get done. But like we got a grab bag of excuses and reasons, and I'm not against pushing back because it's we talked about it, like we've been socialized, so it's in here. It's in here. So we don't really, in some instances, some of us are just now awakening to the fact that that's not okay. Just
Right.
because it's what we used to do, don't mean it's what we still have to do.
Exactly. Like this is like stuff that's been ingrained in our DNA for 400 plus years. It's not going to go away in 4 months. It's not going to go away with you listening to the podcast episode or you going to the conference. I'm not saying don't listen and don't come, but what I'm saying is it's going to take time
Right.
because we are going to. I push back like that. How is that stressful? This is Wednesday afternoon for me. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, and then your girl would take it a step further and start shaming people who wasn't on my hustle level. Oh, you must not want it enough.
Right.
Louder, louder.
You
Oh
must
my
not
gosh,
want it
louder.
enough.
That's
Think
the other way we do it because then we guilt each other.
right.
You
Think
not.
about it when it's time, like when you have time, free time, and you get bored. It's like black women are always going out to get another certification or another degree. Like, oh, I got bored, so I went out and did X, Y, and Z. It's like, well, maybe your bored time is not really bored. It's just rest.
First of all, if you don't stop telling my business, I'm gonna get offended. I'm gonna get offended.
Listen,
And I was bored, so I got
listen,
8 more degrees and 8 more certifications. I was bored. I ain't had nothing to do.
listen.
Like, oh, okay,
Because I
kudos.
ain't gonna say no names, but somebody went and got herself a PhD and walked out talking about, you know what, maybe I should go get another one. Who says that? Who says that?
So,
I asked my mom. I said, "Mama, do you want a grandchild or do you want a PhD?" She didn't get both. She didn't get either one actually. That's what we are.
That's messed up. Sound like
That's
a verbal
life.
contract to me. I don't
That's
know what's going
life.
on.
She said, I said, "Do you want a grandchild or do you want a PhD?"
mhm.
Oh well, sorry, you didn't get either. Sorry.
But yeah, but it's like you said, it's ingrained in us, and we end up shaming each other and ourselves, right? Just like how you see some women have internalized misogyny, a lot of us have that internalized. What's the word? Give me a word, Doc. Give me a
Honestly,
word.
oppression. It would be oppression.
Mhm.
Just like you said it, that is from this system that was established to oppress. Full stop. It was established with the point and the specific goal to
Mhm.
oppress so that those on this level would be the ones that build the wealth for those on this level. That was the way it was established, period. And so we've been socialized in that from all these different angles. And you bet not. You remember you remember in the pandemic when they was like, if y'all not taking this time to go learn something or go start a
Yep.
business or start a hobby or
Yep.
something like that, what if people need a break?
Yes.
What if they need to use that time to rest? But oh, the shame that came.
The shame that came. Yo,
That's
facts.
a
We
quote.
spent we spent about 36, 37 minutes talking about what hustle looks like the negative aspect of what hustle looks like, right? So it's doing the most, right? It's doing so much to the point where things that originally brought us joy, it becomes a chore, it becomes laborious, right? It's shaming other black women who aren't doing as much as we're doing. Oh, she only got one kid. I'm over here with five, and I'm in school and I'm doing this, and I got a food truck, and I have a pest control company, and she over there complaining
I make
about one kid and
t-shirts.
one job, you know,
Yeah.
right? And so so we talked about our aha moments. Each of us had different aha moments, right? So after the aha moment, what did it look like when you started stepping into flow? And so before you answer that, I'm just going to say that my group is called the Strong Black Women Support Group for a reason, right? Because I, me personally, the founder of the group, sometimes backslides and I need support. So that's why I call myself a strong black woman in recovery, or a recovering strong black woman, right? Because
Yeah.
sometimes I'd be like, oh, I'm not gonna do anything that don't align with my purpose. But then I end up, like you said, trying to get another certificate, and anyway, just doing stuff, right? And so when I'm while I'm asking y'all to answer this question, I just wanted to say for the listeners and the watchers, like, yeah, we are entering our flow state, or we may have entered our flow state, but don't get it twisted. And I don't want to speak for Erica and Dr. Akua, but don't get it twisted. I be backsliding like a motherfucker. Okay? Like a motherfucker. So, um, period, right? So I think for me, what flow looks like now that I had that aha moment, my flow looks, and I know this is gonna sound I can't even talk, y'all, so cliche, but it is what it is. Like I am only doing things that I want to do to preserve myself, my energy, and my sanity.
Yeah.
If if it's something that I legitimately don't want to do, I am not going to do it, and no one's going to make me feel guilty about it. Regina is not going to make Regina feel guilty about it because we I have to stop that. Sometimes I have to have a whole argument with myself, right? So
That's
if it
good.
doesn't, right, exactly, like it doesn't align with my passion. So let me give you an example. So with like my group, my group has morphed. It's changed. I've rebranded a couple of times, right? Like there was a point in the group where I would run peer support groups, like process groups. Like we would come on and we'll talk about like whatever we're feeling that day, and then we'll all just like a sister circle. Like we'd huddle and we'd talk. And although I felt like it was something that was on brand, right? Because it's a group, right? It was helpful. People got things out of it. It was super, super duper draining to me. And I'm like, but this is the support group, so I have to do this, right? But at the end of the day, I had to stop doing that because that's not my calling. Like that's not my purpose. Like my calling is events, gatherings, the podcast, writing, blogging. That this is my. You know how they say everybody ain't an activist, everybody's not a frontline, like that. Everyone's not a foot soldier. You know what I
Period.
mean? You know what
Yep.
I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, I may not be, providing direct care per se, but I'm still doing what my passion, which is helping Black women with their self care and their self preservation journeys, right? Their mental wellness journeys. I may not be a therapist because at one point I was like, oh, I'm just going to go to school and become a therapist. Like, sis, if you can't even do a process group on Zoom, you are not going to be able to have clients. Like, come on. So that's kind of like an example of me getting into flow. Like if it doesn't feel good, I'm just not gonna do it.
I have,
I can meet my goal without pigeonholing myself, if that makes sense.
I have a quote for you there. On another podcast episode we were on, Dr. Akua said, "If it does not align, you must decline." You remember? You
Yes.
remember?
No,
You
Carmen
remember?
said that. That was Carmen.
I
Carmen
was
Blind.
just,
Yes.
I
I'm
was
so
gonna say,
sorry. Carmen did say that. You are right.
Yes.
So I was
girl,
like, if it does not
before the
align, you must decline
podcast,
this.
we was talking about something that I had mentioned to Regina, and I was like, oh, I said that, and I am a woman of a certain age, and so if I say it, I'll be like, you had better wrote it down because I'm
Yes.
not gonna recall. So when you
You're right.
just said that, Erica, I was like, well, damn, good
Hey,
grief.
Carmen. Carmen said that if it does not
Yes.
align, you must
I must
decline.
decline.
But mine ties into what Regina just mentioned because, like I said, I'm in the nonprofit space, and I used to always say my calling is to help people and be in a nonprofit world. I wanted to have my own nonprofit coming up or whatever. Then I went to school for it, and I'm like, okay. And I'm like, well, I still want to be able to live and make some money, and I'm not sure if this is going to be what makes it for me. And like, oh, the money will come if you're passionate about it. I'm like, yeah, I got that. And then being involved in different activities and volunteering and being of service and all the things that was doing before COVID. And so for me, it kind of ended up intertwining that aside from me having to do work and then having to volunteer and doing service, mine ended up being combined in the sense, and I also got to make money. So instead of working for a nonprofit and just being the worker bee, I ended up going on the tech side. So not only now am I on the tech side where I can make money and be happy, or whatever, but I'm also working for nonprofits, like contracted to work for nonprofits. So it's like, well, now that I do that and I'm still in the nonprofit space in a sense, but on the tech side, do I still go out and volunteer? And I'm like, you don't have to because you're still helping these nonprofits with their systems, with their databases. They still need this stuff. So I what did we say earlier? I convinced myself that I didn't need to be doing the most with volunteering for 50 million organizations because I'm doing that on a daily basis in my job. I have 9, 10 clients at one time. And then with my own business, we can talk about that. My own business, I do the same thing. So it's like even more clients. So, it's like I can kind of merge the two and still kind of take a step back and relax versus I have to work 9 to 5 and then go here and do this and do that and still have my life be fulfilled by the things that I enjoy. Well, I just combine them together and I'm like, well, I'm still doing what I love by helping the nonprofits. So for me, that's what made it make sense for me. And I'm like, well, I can take a step back. And now when I want to do activities that involves, volunteering and being on the front street, I can do it on my time, not because I'm obligated to do so or that I'm told you have to or this is going to happen. I'm like, no, if I want to go out and, do whatever, it's because Erica wants to. So if it does not align, I decline. Thank you, Carmen.
I know that's right. And shout out to Carmen Blyden. She was the MC, the mistress of ceremonies for the fifth annual conference, the fifth annual Strong Black Woman Redefined conference that we had this past October. And yeah, I love that, Erica. Like you basically married two things that you love, right? Because here's the thing, like if your values are important to you, if I'm speaking for me, my values are important to me. I'm going to want to live authentically with respect and honor my values, right? So yes, I enjoy making money, but I also enjoy helping people. So let me get into the tech space, right? I'm pretending to be Erica. Let me get into this tech space so I can earn a good living, but also help be contracted to assist nonprofits with their database management. So I'm marrying two things that I value. And there's nothing wrong with valuing money. There's nothing wrong with valuing nice things. You know what I mean? That's another thing we have to that for me is when I stepped into my flow. Like I used to be not embarrassed, but like I can't think of the word, but or just maybe ashamed to say that I like nice things.
Mm.
I was ashamed to say I want to make a lot of money. Oh no, well you got to be for the people. You got to be for the people, and you got to get in the like. Everyone's not a foot soldier, and just because something's for the community doesn't mean it's free. So that's all I have to say
So
about that.
listen, you go talk about your little Rolls Royce, honey. Your little Rolls Royce. When you
Your
get
little
your
Rolls
stuff,
Royce.
it's gonna be a little this and a little that.
you know. So, but yeah, so I feel like we have to think outside the box and be strategic, kind of like what Erica did, where she took two values that were very important to her and married it. So it's like her day job is those two values, and now she doesn't have to figure out, oh my God, how am I going to fit this in and fit that in? There's only 24 hours in the day and stuff like that. So to me that's self preservation and self care. So if you want to learn more about that, please make sure that you sign up for our 5 ways to slay your self care in 2025 and beyond. There's the link right there. This is our first virtual master class of 2025. And it's no secret that we chose this topic as our first virtual masterclass. If you are already part of the Strong Black Women Support Group, you do get this masterclass for free. So I highly encourage you to join our group. But if you don't want to join the group, you just want to take the class, you want to hear from Dr. Akua and myself, you can sign up via Eventbrite. So we were talking about flow and how we started stepping into our flow. Erica shared that she took two very important values and married it into her job. What about you, Dr. Akua?
So you alluded to it, or actually you might have blatantly said it, that it's an ongoing process. So all those years ago had that aha moment, that awakening, if you will, and it has been a continued and intentional continued process to keep moving forward towards that flow state, if you will. Um, I am currently on a sabbatical. I decided to take it, um, planned in advance. I planned all my social medias for the month, programmed them bad boys, and I am like off of social media. Like, okay, so mostly off. It's probably like, you feel me? Maybe one, to go in and check and see if anybody's responding so I can like respond back and be active. But also, when you turn on the app, it's a video and you be like, oh, what's that video about? So, I might peek every once in a while. But for the most part, I'm off of social media and I'm really taking this time to do some reflection. And it's in the vibe of what people do with their New Year's resolutions. But I'm liable to do something like this in the middle of July, so it's just so you know what I'm talking about. It's in that vibe of that whole thing. And I literally just the other day realized that the last, I'm just going to say, most of my life has been doing things for other people. And I didn't even realize it. I was either working for someone, I was coaching someone, I was raising someone, I was ministering to someone. I was just everything that I do, even in the work that I do right now, heartfelt, love it. And realizing that there has never been a consistent amount of attention and focus on me. I've done it, I'm good with like, oh, I'm gonna go. I don't go to the movies that much anymore, but it used to be. I'll go to the movies by myself. I'll go to a restaurant by myself. I'll go hang out by myself. I'll do this for myself. But I want to kick that up like many notches because my children are no longer like small children. They're grown adults, got their own place, all the things. I'm no longer involved in the church like I used to be, so I don't have to pour out like that. So all that space I'm going to fill with myself. And so the reason I had my back turned a moment ago was because I was looking for this book, and I don't know if I'm allowed to show it, but I know I can refer to it. It's a collection of essays and speeches by Audre Lorde. And one of my favorite quotes of hers, and a million people know it, like I, I wanted to read it verbatim, um, where she said that, and she's talking about something else, but it applies here. Um, she says, for the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. They may allow us temporarily to beat him at his own game, but they will never enable us to bring about genuine change. And so, how I'm applying that to this topic that we're talking about, how do we get into that flow state? How do we like deprogram ourselves from that hustle flow is to stop doing what we learned from this system of oppression.
Mm-hmm.
If it aligns with that oppressive system, 99% certain that it's not going to help you get into that flow state of wellness and healing and healthy because those were the tools that were used to oppress you. So the habits and the things that we do that we are consistently like practicing, we've been doing it since we were little, is a good it's a, how am I trying to say, it's safe to say that if that's how you got it, then you might want to be curious about how you can reverse it, how you can turn that around. Shout out to John Witherspoon. Reverse it. You got to turn, you got to figure out how to turn that around. Overworking yourself, bogging yourself down with all of these responsibilities. Yes, you may enjoy it, but those are the master's tools. That was something that was ingrained in us, in our ancestors for centuries, that if you got time to rest, then you got too much time in your hands.
Mm-hmm.
In order to get out of that hustle state and to get into that flow state, we got to use some different tools, something that is not, and I think you just said it, it's outside of the box. It's going to make you feel like a little uncomfortable. Well, my mama did it, my grandmama did it, my auntie did it, so and so did it. Then it's probably a good idea that we might want to figure out how can we do it now? How can we change that? No shade to mama, grandmama, big mama, and auntie them, because we know that they did what they had to do. And if we're talking about changing for our well-being, of our health, then maybe we remix it. Maybe we reverse it. Maybe we do something different.
Yeah, I like that. And I'm gonna get the name of the book, so we could put it in the description for folks. So for the folks who are watching the replay, can click on the link and take a look at the book. Speaking of books, and this was not planned, by the way, y'all. I promise you. I promise you this was not planned. Speaking of books, this book right
I
here,
know that book.
This book right here, this book slash journal for strong black women who desire softness when perfection ain't enough. Let me tell you about this. I do this journal before I go to bed at night. I just started it January.
Wow.
And let me tell you, Dr. Akua Rose Feathers put her whole entire foot in this book, y'all. The whole foot. A little bit of ankle too. A little bit
And
of
it's a
ankle
big foot, y'all. It is big foot. Big.
too. Listen, we're gonna put the link. We're gonna put the link to this too. And I, you have a part two to this, don't you?
I don't have a part two. I have a my
Oh,
first book that I wrote. I'm about to be doing an updated edition. I don't know how you say that, but
got you. Yeah.
Ooh.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Extra additions and stuff.
You feel me?
Anyway, and let me tell you why I like this because I don't know if y'all ever had bought like a guided journal or whatever where you have to go like step by step by step. The way she did this book, it's basically like whatever speaks to you first, like whatever the urgent need you want to like tackle first or process first, you could do that. Right? So softness, SOFFNESS is a like an acronym. And so you can start off with whatever letter you want to start off with, you know? So anyway, this was not planned, but yo, you see it's right here in my desk.
I
My
love
little pen,
that.
my little bookmarker. Hmm. I like this journal. So thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for always blessing us with your expertise. You know, and I really do appreciate it. We do. We really do appreciate it. So, but
Thank you.
yeah, but yeah. There was something I wanted to speak to that you had mentioned before I brought up your book. That's okay. Don't worry about it. It'll come
Okay.
back. It'll
Yeah.
come back.
I I think, and thank you for those words. Like honestly, the work that we're in that same space, and I can't. I was trying to remember one of y'all said something earlier. Oh, Regina, when you were talking about, I'm not the one that's going to be, marching or doing this thing. Us sitting at our different spaces. If you might be a lawyer, you might be a consultant, you might be a sign maker. I don't know. You might make lunches for the people who go out. Wherever we are, the outcome ideally would be the same, that we're able to work towards like real liberation or continued liberation of Black people and specifically within Black women. I love the conference. I love the community that you've created. Um, all of those things are a part of how we as Black women process, which leads to healing. All of
Mhm.
that helps us in a safe community to question some of the master's tools, to question some of the norms and the ideals, because we know it don't feel right. Something's off. You ever walk into your house and be like, what's that smell? Like something
Yeah.
done went bad somewhere, or maybe, the pet babies done did something. And we go, don't we go around the house sniffing
Mhm.
everything until we find what that thing is? It's not always easy. We feel something is off and we like, what is that? Where's that discomfort? I don't know. When we sit in a community of like minded Black women, when we attend conferences with like minded Black women, when we read books, you know, written by all of these things can lead to that flow state because we're stepping outside of that socialized norm that has harmed us and our ancestors for centuries.
Yes.
So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's I don't know. I just know in my heart and in my spirit that like what we're doing, this conversation that we have every Thursday is so needed. Um, and we have the early bird tickets are available right now for the sixth annual Strong Black Women Redefined conference. That's in October. It's 2 days this year. Day two, actually, the day two, which is the full day, actually falls on Black Girl Day off. I'm not telling you to call off. on October 11th, but I am telling you that it is National Black Girl Day off. Uh, just saying. And we do have some early bird tickets. They are available now. But if you don't want to wait until October, you want to get some more of Dr. Akua's gems and knowledges and stuff. In February, we do have knowledges is. Yes, I can make up words.
Okay.
I can make
Rocket,
up
rocket.
um, please join us for the 5 ways to slay your self care in 2025 and beyond. We're going to talk about how to dismantle that harmful hustle mindset and get into that flow state that speaks to our spirit, speaks to our heart, lets us live in alignment. Give yourself permission to trust yourself. Woo, child, I just felt something because it took me a long time. When I tell you a long time, a long time to trust myself. And let me just add to my aha moment. When I started trusting myself, that's when my aha moment turned into the yes, girl moment. Okay, just saying.
Won't he do it?
Oh, he do it. Okay. No, but for real, like I always doubted myself. Always doubted myself because I was socialized to believe these oppressive tools, right? And so me feeling in my body and in my spirit and my heart that this don't feel good, I was resisting that because I'm told, no, you want to be a doctor and a lawyer and you want to do this and you want to do that. And but I'm like, it don't feel good, but no, but you want to do it. But it don't feel good. Like literally. Regina and Renee had to have a whole conversation. And so
I see.
when Regina told Renee to start trusting herself more, and when she started trusting herself more, things started feeling better. And then I started getting clarity about what I like, what I don't like, what I feel is harmful. So anyway, that was let me get off my soapbox. That was my little rant. But yeah, trust yourself. It takes a minute. But once you get there, listen, I ain't never going back.
Much.
Period.
I
I
need
think in and I know we wrapping. I will just say closing thought, you know, connected to what you're saying. It is a process. There's no such thing as all right, I'm done. I finished. It's a process.
It's a process. So this is our episode on hustle versus flow, understanding the realities of Black womanhood. In our next episode, make sure you tune in to the next episode because in our next episode, we're going to talk about different ways to stop hustling and start flowing. We defined it. We defined what it means. But now it's like, okay, now what? Now what do I do? You done trauma dumped all over me. Now what do I do? Well, we're gonna tell you next week. So make sure you tune
come
in.
back.
You come back and make sure you tune into the Strong Black Women Support Group podcast. Have a good night. Thank you.